All right. All right, everybody. Hey, guess what? It is Sunday, January 13th, 2019. Yep, I almost messed up there. Let's go back in time where it's a little bit more simple. Wait, no. I think Obama was president in 2009. Nope, let's stay in 2019 then. Anyways,
Yeah, yeah.
Ed, why don't you take over?
I appreciate it, and thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been an interesting week that I've been watching a lot of craziness, and I'm watching a lot of these people doing these talk shows whining about their children. And some of these people, I've given them information. A couple of them, I've helped them put their case together, and they're not filing it. Then they want to sit out there and whine. You know, it's really disturbing that these men and women out there are saying they love their children, but they sure ain't proving it to their children if they love them. That's what gets to me. You know, when you ask for help, you get the help, and you don't follow through when you get the help. It's very disturbing. You know, it's entertaining, and I gotta say, it's starting to get entertaining watching these people keep doing these talk shows and going back and forth. You know, not standing up for themselves or their children. And that's the one thing that, we do have some templates, and I'm working on a couple more to get out there, folks. I mean, this is your responsibility for your children. So quit sitting there and telling the general public that, your children have been kidnapped and held for ransom, and you're looking for some, what do they call that, lawyer or an attorney to protect you and your children. That is a fish in a bucket. It ain't going to happen. Or fish in a barrel. It ain't going to happen. Attorneys are not there to protect you. Once you start accepting that these men and women are not there for you, end of story. That's where it really comes down to. That's like all these people going, oh, I'm going to pay income tax, because I'm scared to go to jail. It's like you got to realize if you're that scared to stand up for your children, no wonder that these other countries are losing their battles. That's the one thing that we're men and women, our forefathers weren't scared. They stood up for your rights, and you're not even protecting them. You're not even protecting your bloodline on them. And that's sad, folks. I mean, this is really sad when people ain't protecting their bloodline. They're not protecting their neighbor. They're not protecting their families. And then they want to blame somebody else for what's going on in their life. Now, trust me, I've been there. I know what it's like to blame somebody else what's going on in your life and do the wham wham, I mean, we all been there ourselves until we started getting educated, until we knew the truth. So until you start knowing the truth and until you stand up for the truth, you're going to sit there continually doing a wham wham. And you can't sit there and blame others when you're doing the wham wham. So that's where, like, what do they call that? The 17th Amendment. I have a right to vote. No, you technically don't have a right to vote because we didn't vote in this country until they put the administrative rule of the 17th Amendment in. That's administrative rule. That's not a constitutional amendment. And once you realize that after the Civil War, there was no constitutional amendments because everything was done under commercial and maritime law. There is no, and that's the whole point, is learning what the law is, learning what your constitution rights are, learning if you're native, lawful bloodline native, learning if you're an immigrant, and learning that you have to pay taxes until you become 5 or more generations. I mean, our forefathers put this stuff together very well. They did think about these things before they put the Constitution up for us. They thought about this stuff. They took care of you. They made sure that this stuff was there for you. And, and it is our responsibility to make sure that the children have it. It's our responsibility. And once you start expecting, that's called responsibility. I mean, a choice doesn't give you responsibility. The word choice is a legal out. All right? Responsibility means that you're liable for your actions. And that is the saddest part, that we got so many people that don't even be liable or responsible for their own children. They want to pass the buck off. And believe me, I know I've heard a lot of parents say, well, if you keep acting this way, I'll let the state take you, threatening their kids that way. And then all of a sudden, when the state takes them, then they get angry. You threaten that, and you get a lot of people out there listening to you do that. And your public employees are monitoring you on your Facebook, your phones. That fiber optic system they put around the state, they can sit there from 1,000 feet and listen to your conversation. The 5 gigs that we have around the country right now, they just plug in your number and put a authorization out there, and they get the information. They don't need a warrant because you didn't sign your contract with that phone company demanding that they have to have a warrant. You didn't demand your rights when you signed these contracts. And trust me, I've been there with signing contracts, even with the medical society. Oh, you have to sign this way. We tell you the way you sign it. I'm sorry, it don't work that way. I know that for a fact. I mean, I've just got through spending basically, 2 months, the last 3 months in the hospital. Of course, did I sign paperwork? No. That is the one thing that you've got to realize. I walked in that hospital, and they're trying to tell me, well, you need to sign this, and you need to do that. And I said, what? You want me to commit federal fraud? I'm signing under duress. I'm not going to sign your paperwork. I'm under duress. Do you get it? And that is the point that people have got to get. Learn your administrative rules. Learn the Constitution of what the Constitution gives you rights, not privileges. And it is frustrating. Believe me, I get it. We all get it. We all had to live this way. The rest of us had to learn this stuff before we could get the information out. And then they put the 17th Amendment telling you that, oh, you have a right to vote. But people don't have a right to vote because when you vote, you're not protecting yourself. That is the one thing that people have got to learn, how to protect themselves. And when you're not protecting yourself, you're losing. You're screwing up. You're taking, time away from you and your family. And that is the one thing that you've got to do this. Pay attention. Start standing for your rights. Start standing up for what's going on around you. And so that is the one thing that's the whole point of all of us doing this. Learning from each other. Talking these things out. Making these things become a reality. Okay? It's like the sheriff deputies don't have authority. The sheriff has no authority. I'm getting that information out. The Supreme Court says the sheriff, they claim he's a sworn-in officer, but the only thing that he's sworn to do is to protect the courtroom. He's not supposed to be on the street. Do you get it? He's not supposed to be on the street. His job is to protect that courtroom. His job ain't out there protecting the street. I mean, a cop, his job is not out there to protect people. See, that is the one thing. The cop's job is a revenue collector. He works for the IRS. He's got a contract with the city. Originally, when he went and got his certificates, all right, when he went through police training, he takes a constitutional oath. Then when he goes to a city, county, or state, he's signing a new contract with the corporation, so his constitutional oath is not standing, not binding. And so once you comprehend that that's the way the reality of this point works, this is how you get to know. And if you don't believe me, type in the structure. Type in the structure of, with a police officer. The Supreme Court said a police officer has no right to protect you. And then you got the other side where they're saying, well, they're supposed to protect you because they get a paycheck. And I do have that written up, and I don't know, I think we do have it on the new.Oregon site, and if it's on there, please go read what I put together. I think it's 32 pages long, or 28 pages long. And that has all the structure with the police of what they can and cannot do, their administrative rules, what they're supposed to do for their paycheck, and what they're not supposed to do for their paycheck. It's right there. You know, it's like all these public employees whining because they're not getting a paycheck. Yeah, I can sympathize with them. Okay, but when these public employees are voting and screwing we the people out of our resources, screwing us out of our homes, telling us if we don't pay property taxes, we're going to get murdered out of our property. You know, that's the one thing. Remember, these men and women don't love for you. They don't care for you. They rape your children. They rob from you. And that's what they do. And once people start standing up to that fact and realizing that these are what these men and women do, then all of a sudden, now we've got some success in our country. Now we've got people that are really getting what these men and women are doing to you. All right. And that is the one thing that you've got to start doing this stuff to protect yourself. Because if you don't protect yourself, nobody else is going to protect you. That is a fact. And that is the one thing you have to protect your children. That's the one thing I've been trying to get across on some of these guys that are out there whining on these talk shows. Oh, my kid, my child. And I've been on some of these other talk shows with these people. How come you're not filing the charges? And then I love it. Well, I don't know how to do it. Okay, let's walk you through it. Give me a call. We'll walk you through it. You know, let's get this program working so that way you comprehend that this is what's going on. But you're going to have to read, you know. It's not that somebody's going to, oh, I need to hire a lawyer. You know, that is the one thing that people go that, oh, yeah, we need to hire a lawyer. We need to hire an attorney. Remember, they don't work for you. They work for the corporation. And why are you even going to administrative legislative court to begin with? How come you're not challenging the jurisdiction of your elected and public servants? That's your responsibility. That's your responsibility. So once you start standing up for your responsibility, once you start standing up for your stuff, you know, that is the one thing that is your deal. Okay? And once you start putting this together, and then you ask other people to join you in your march. Because people start doing this, and we start working together, and we start putting this stuff together. We start endorsing each other. You know, this is where I'm sitting there, you know, putting this stuff together, putting this out there. So that way we can sit there and work together. It's like the other point is I've been doing the background check. I'm trying to get as much as I can on police departments. Me and another gentleman have been working on this. And it's like we need you to help with the information. I mean, like I said, I just spent 2 months out of the last 3 months recently in the hospital. Besides being bouncing off and on a life support system because, lung and heart complete failure. You know, my heart stopped. I mean, the last time I ended up, I spent 3 weeks, and I got in before, what did the doctor tell me? If I didn't get in when I got in within the next 15 minutes, I would have had a major heart attack, and my odds were basically 60% against me to 70% against me. So, I mean, that is the point that we're living with, like with the 17th Amendment. Oh, I want a right to vote. Deregulate yourself. Get rid of your vote. All right? That way you don't vote. You're not liable party. You're not a responsible party to pay the debts of your public servants. Get off their tax rolls. I mean, I've been off their tax rolls for years, and I'm still getting ready. I got to finish this other thing that I'm working on, and I got to file because I want to get off their tax rolls. I've already filed all this stuff going back to 2013. 6 years I've been fighting Lincoln County administration on it, the city council, the mayor, the county commissioners, and I filed this stuff. And basically I've been informed, well, you keep fighting it, we're just going to kill you. I don't give a shit. That's why I sit there and do what I do, and that's why men and women are armed. And that's why the Supreme Court came out the beginning of the year, told every American to arm themselves. Your Supreme Court just came out and told you to arm yourself. So that is the point. you have to arm yourself. That is the point. You have to protect this country. And on the borders right now. What is it? On the borders, Mexico, New Mexico, California, Arizona, they're literally having live fire on the borders. People are fighting it out with live fire, protecting our borders from invasion. These men and women are not coming to saying, "Oh, we want a job and stuff." This is an invasion, folks. Then you got this so-called guy that runs the Roman Catholic dictionary, called, no offense to those who believe in religion or King James Bible, but you got this man claiming as a pope, oh, you have to be a Christian, and it's not the Christian thing to turn your back on these immigrants. You're supposed to let them come into your home. You're supposed to give them your remote control. You're supposed to open your refrigerator to these men and women. And it's like, excuse this idiot pope? This man calls himself a pope. He's an asshole. I filed on his soul. I filed on his soul in the Vatican. I filed on his soul in Sewer and Water, downtown London. I even filed on his soul and the Queen's soul to the Buckingham Palace. And the only other time that their souls were filed on was 1329. I can't remember the monk's name, but as soon as I get it back, we'll get it on the website. This has been done before. It's like everybody keeps going, oh, the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta is from England. So if you want the Magna Carta, you have to go by administrative rules called the Article 1 courts. Read the Article 1 courts. Read the administrative rules of an Article 3 court. It is so interesting when you actually read this stuff. So that is the point. So once you start reading this stuff, this is how we're going to start protecting ourselves more and more. Yes, sometimes it sounds like I'm harsh and I'm really jumping out there on people, but I'm no different than you guys. When it comes down to it, we all learn from the roads of hard knocks. Once you've already been battered and beaten up so many times, you start realizing, oh, shit, I don't have to keep doing this. That is the one thing that we can sit there and start protecting each other. When you got an affidavit out there, let's pass it on. Right now I'm emailing to another guy who's got a whole bunch of stuff that he's been putting out in his writing. And so, that is the one that I want to be able to put his information on new.org and trackers. So this way you can see what this guy is filing. But the one thing is, he hasn't filed his rights under Title 18, 3771. He hasn't claimed himself the injured party. He's still doing the motions and all the other stuff. If you do a motion, you're giving the judge the authority to decide. A motion goes up and down. You're in the ocean. See, that is the one thing. You're on the ocean. So, do you want your rights or do you want privileges? You have the rights to decide if you want your rights or privileges. And once you establish that you want your rights, file for them. You have to file for them. And if you don't file for them, you don't have them. But that's the other point. You got to make sure you file for them in the city, the county. It goes to the county commissioners. Not only that, you file them in the museums, because museums can only carry positive and only permanent implausible records. They cannot carry hearsay in their administrative rules. So, that is the one thing that you've got to realize. This is the way the reality of life really works. So that is the point. If you don't file, you have no argument. In that way. And the other point that I've been talking to a couple people, and I've got a couple people that I've got to get back to on Article 3 courts, and I'm trying to explain to them that you have to file with not all capitals. You write the capital S and Supreme, you write it like you're doing a letter. Okay, you don't do all your capitals. You don't play their administrative games. And then when you get to where they're trying to give you a court, when you get a court date and stuff, you've got to see if that judge took an oath to the Constitution or the corporation. Not only that, you have to prove that judge has a bond. And if I'm not mistaken, we have the bond numbers and the bond information on our website. So the information is there, and that is our responsibility to do this stuff. It's our responsibility to do the research and, put the stuff out. I mean, I'm putting the stuff out. There's a lot of other men and women that, are putting it out that are on the same page as I am. And so that's where we're at. It's called, we the people. We the lawful bloodline Native Americans. Immigration don't have rights. That's the Supreme Court. Has clearly stated that. So anyhow, I gotta go grab a glass of water real quick. So as you can hear, my throat starting to dry out. So let me go run and grab a glass of water. I'll be right back. It'll take me about 20 seconds, and then we'll open up the floor and let's get some conversation going on this. So hang on for a second, so I get some water so I could wet my throat. Hang on just a moment, please.
And remember, Ed is not exactly in the best prime of health. He's an old coot with metal in his neck, and he's got, last I heard, only 40% of his heart was working. So if he's short of breath, that's one of the reasons, because you got to breathe a lot more to get the oxygen through your heart into your bloodstream. But while I'm talking on this and everything like that, I do want to mention, hey, if you haven't checked them out yet, United Constitution and Patriots, or United Constitutional Patriots show, they are good. You need to go listen to them if you want to know what's happening down there on the border. They're in the New Mexico border, and that's the only section of the southern border that does not have a military presence, because the governor, by state sovereignty, is refusing to send the National Guard there to protect the border. So all the immigrants, or the illegals, the invaders, are trying to come up through that area. And the last heard, if you've been listening to it, the previous that had, I think it was like 50,000 or 15,000 or something like that, it's 10 times that much is starting to come up now again. So we're about ready to be invaded, guys. Full on invaded. They're already having firefights there at the border. So Ed, I hear you're back. You want me to get everybody
yes, thank you. Yeah, let's open up the floor and let's start.
All participants are unmuted.
Okay, so who would like to say something? Who would like to get into this? Because it's, it's our country. So what do you want to do for it?
Wow.
Nobody wants to do anything? Huh? Okay, well. So, but anyhow, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Since the governor won't do anything for the United States, can't they be charged with treason?
Right, but the only way that's going to happen is if the men and women write the treason charges against them, because a corporation cannot write the treason charge on it. The only one that could do is lawful bloodline Native Americans can do that. I mean, even the governor of Texas, has been served because he's failing in his position. And that's the one thing, is that how come, it amazes me that people are not outraged with their public servants in writing this stuff and making sure that they know that people are paying attention and know that they know the administrative rules versus the Constitution. So, I mean, yeah, they can be definitely charged, but we, the people, have to charge them. That's like with me. I've been charging Kate Brown indictments You know, and I know that they're, in the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. But right now we've gone through 3 attorney generals that don't want to do their job. So these guys don't want to prosecute these guys because they've already got dirty laundry that they've climbed up the administrative rules that way. That's why Trump has basically put the pressure, and that's why we've gone through 3 attorney generals. We don't even know if this one that is right now, presently, is going to last throughout the next 2 weeks. Because he's even made mention that, he's have a conflict of interest to go after people, especially the Democratic Party going after people for their act of treason. So does that make sense?
Yes.
So, you could write a treason charge on your county, on your stuff, and then you've got the information. Let me make sure that you got the information on the sheriffs, because the one thing is, the sheriffs have no authority. The Supreme Court has clearly stated that. So it's up to the people to stand on that and prove that. It's up to the people to make sure that that happens. So when I put this stuff out with the sheriff and stuff, use it. Write them and that, don't accuse them first, but ask them, first. Are they going to do something? What are they doing? What is the circumstances that they're going to try to do to protect your rights? What are they going to do to protect your child's rights? See, these are the questions that we just asked them, the questions. If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfectly sense, and it sounds like it's so simple too. Just ask.
Well, Well, go ahead, keep going. I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
Well, no, I was going to say just ask. It just turn around and say, write them a letter, and I guess you would send it certified, so to make sure that they got it.
Absolutely.
And then just come up with about 4 or 5 questions, asking them. So, what are you going to do to protect my rights? What are you going to do to protect my family's rights? What are you going to do to protect the city's rights, the state's rights?
No, you're not protecting the city or state rights, because the city and state's a corporation. They don't have rights.
Oh.
You want to ask them why they're not protecting the natives' rights, why they're not protecting the legal resident, the legal citizens. So you can put it on them, on the legal stuff, on their structure. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So with that one, now you've got it to put it out there, and so that's the point that they get caught up in the middle of it. So let them get caught up in the middle of it. Let them try to answer the questions with it. You want to put them in the position of let them answer the question. Let them bring it up. Let them question it. So once you start bringing it up, that point for them to bring it up, and you're asking them the questions, holy shit, it puts them in a different light. But you are right. You are right. You want to make sure it is done in writing. It's like I've tried to talk to these people. This is what you need to put in writing. And, then I talk to people, and then they go, oh, I don't want to put it in writing, because then that way I might have to be responsible and do something. And that's where we're at. If people are not responsible to stand up, there's not much to do it. It's like I just got this guy who's sending me this deal called a petition to vacate and void. What the hell is a petition to vacate and void?
Begging and pleading for you to leave.
Right, exactly. And this is what I try to get. And this is, I've mentioned this to this guy on many occasions, what he's been doing with this case, 100% completely wrong. And he keeps going back and forth and asking permission, pleading, getting on his hands and knees and groveling. And that's what he's actually doing. You know, he's putting this in, as a petition for the people to vacate. He has to file, what is that called? Criminal charges on the goddamn judge. He has to file the criminal charges on the clerk who hasn't stamped his paperwork. A petition is a whining instrument. I told him, I like some of his work, but like I told him, send me your stuff. I put it on the website because he's got some good work, but he's doing it wrong. He's not sitting there charging them with the crimes. He's always asking and pleading in his case. He's begging on his hands and knees. And that's the one thing. You don't beg. You don't do that. And that is the one thing when you're doing this to yourself, and then you wonder why it is not getting there. Not only that, he's doing this petition, and he doesn't even, he sends it to the court. How come, he's got a file date from the clerk? Okay, but how come he didn't put in that in his so-called petition that the clerk, has authority to file this petition, and if the clerk does not make sure that it goes through the judge's channels, he has to file on the clerk. But he didn't put it in the paperwork, so now he's got to refile on the clerk and refile on the judge. He didn't put it in the original so-called petition he's doing. And the people of the state, all right? And he's got everything in capital letters. That's the point. You've got to realize the state has two stamps. One is the original Constitution stamp when the state was formed and has a contract with the British government called the Roman Catholic Church. That's the Queen of England. And, we have another stamp that's the corporation stamp. Each state has it. And trying to get people to comprehend it. We had one guy that, beat a lot of things in even my own head. And it's like, oh, I see this point. Even when I went through it, I knew it was there, but I didn't catch on to it right away. And some of it I did catch on right away. But it's putting these pieces to this puzzle together so we start learning this stuff. So we start talking about this stuff. So we start reacting to this stuff. So it's bringing it out to our structure. Remember, it's our structure. It's called we the people. And even by we the people, even the courts have even said that if you want to use we the people, that's using it as a corporation word. And that's on new.org and Trackers. I believe it should be up. We put that up. And that's why I say, read the stuff. Go through the new.org and Trackers. If you got questions, bring it out. We'll get it to you. That's the one thing that the producer runs the stuff on the Oregon Trackers YouTube site. So you can see the laws that are coming up on the screen. He runs it slowly, and you can stop it, and you can write this information down. And let me clarify, we are not attorneys, we are not lawyers, we're not corporation members. And I've had a lot of people go, well, why don't you go get your law license, Ed? Why don't you be able to go get your, what is that called? What is that other thing that's not a lawyer? What is that? A legal aid, your permit from the state. And it's like, no, I'm not going to do this. Because if I get a permit from the state, that means I have to do what the state tells me to do. And I have an issue with that because nobody tells me to do. I've had that issue growing up all my life, Nobody's ever told me what to do, and when I do, it doesn't work. And I've been through that even with the so-called judges and stuff. I've got YouTube videos where the judges are trying to tell me to do this, that, and the other thing, and I tell them to go to hell. And it's on YouTube videos. I went through where they were trying to, trying to put me in jail. Said I violated my probation when I was never even charged with a crime. You can't violate your probation, or what they did, because they screwed me on this one deal. And it was interesting because I got convicted for my house being robbed by the police department. The police robbed my house, and I got convicted for them robbing my house. But also, too, if I knew what I knew now, I mean, they wouldn't have got away with it in their so-called kangaroo court system. But that's the one thing. I've gone through these hard knocks, and I'm trying to educate people so they don't have to go through the stupidity I had to live through. What I had to go through these hard knocks to put this stuff together to come to the conclusion of, oh, shit, I'm doing this wrong. And so I want to make sure that others are not doing it wrong. And once we start doing this, it's like voting. I have the right to vote, and all you're doing is voting for what? See, the 17th Amendment says I have a right to vote, and everybody's saying I have a right to vote to increase your taxes. And remember, when your public employees are voting, that's a conflict of interest. And so, that's the whole thing is putting a ballot together, title on this, bounce it around, throw it around with each other, and come up with a solution and get this out. Get this out there to people. We can do this. We can actually do this to make sure that these things happen for we the people. Or not we the people. We can make sure it happens for us. Yourself. So, we do have the solutions to our problems. But the point is, do we really want to solve the problem? Or do we want to sit there, whine, beg, and plead? And that's what most people are doing this, whining and pleading. They're not getting things accomplished. That's like putting it up, the republic form of government versus democracy. Democracy is a religion. Democracy, you have no rights. A republic form of government, not a Republican form of government. The Constitution and the Federalist Paper does not say anything about Republicans. Republic is a republic form of government. That means you have the right in front of a jury trial of your peers. And let me clarify peers to the general public. That means people who know you. That means that a cop cannot be your peer. That means, a public servant cannot be your peer. It's called your neighbors, your family members, or your peers. And then on the other side, they're supposed to be able to have their side of their peers. And that means called the injured party. The corpus delicti title, that comes under Title 18, 117 or 3771. So, and the only way a court case could go into the structure is by an injured party. A cop, a district attorney, a judge cannot put in an affidavit. And if they do, technically, and if we file on it, it's a federal crime. And when you do your affidavits on your court case, you want to make sure you see the affidavit. See, once you have the affidavit in your hands, then you know what you're being charged with, what the crime is. All right? And trust me, I've had them where they come after me and trying to tell me that, because I told a cop off, that's a crime. No, it's not. I videotape cops, and that's a crime. No, it's not. I've been kidnapped and held for ransom for videotaping cops. I've had other people that have gone into court videotaping my court deals. When we get out of court, have been kidnapped and held for ransom because the judge says, go get that guy because he's videotaping in my courtroom. Hate to tell these idiots, but we have a right to videotape in these courtrooms. They're administrative courts, Article 1 courts, but we have a right to these things. So anybody else would like to add something? Because I'm just starting to get off on the tangents here. Okay, nobody? So the one thing is, remember, on you can go to your elections department. They do have a form in the elections department to withdraw yourself from the electronic votes, election votes. Okay, and it even says on the form if you're legal or lawful. I know that in my county they have it on the form if you're legal or lawful on the form. So read these forms. Some of these forms have this information, and if they don't have the correct information, then it's your responsibility to put it on and make sure that, it's like if you get a cell phone, and everybody just signs the contract. How come you're not putting in your restrictions? How come you're not adding your deal that if they audio or they videotape off of your phone that you can hold them liable? See, that's called a contract. You do have a right to do that. And, in the past years, I've done that when I had a cell phone. Oh, God, that must have been like 15 years ago. And the company that I bought the cell phone and got the service, and I'm writing this stuff on this contract, and the guy is going, well, you can't write all that stuff on that. And I said, okay, well, I guess I don't need the cell phone. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, yeah, you could write it on. We just don't want people to do it because, it's a liability issue. Yeah, it's a liability issue for them. So it is very cautious. It is paying attention to these circumstances of what lawful and legal is. So anyhow, if we got nobody like to bring it up or talk, I think we'll call it a short evening because I still got some other research to do. But just remember, folks, if you're doing a petition, it doesn't work. I mean, when you're whining, it doesn't work. You have to put the charges on these men and women. And if you're not putting the charges on these men and women, then you're not getting anything done. You have to file the criminal charges, and that is your responsibility, not anybody else's responsibility to do that. So, and then, I'm going to try to get hold of this one guy to, tell him, hey, send me the information. We'll put it up on the website. I want people to see what the stuff is. So that way they can comprehend what's going on. Because it's our right, our responsibility. And the one thing is, it's your responsibility to protect your family. It's not the system's responsibility to protect your family. And don't forget, if you call a cop, look how many people call the cops for assistance and they get shot. Another mentally retarded kid, parents call dealing with a 17-year-old mentally retarded kid, and the cops drive up to the apartment and they shoot the kid 5 times. So, welcome to Nazism, folks. Like, wake up. Stop lying to yourself. Anderson Cooper is not a friend of yours. CNN is not a friend of yours. Realize who's telling what truth and who's telling what facts in the news media or the structure. So with that, we'll call it an evening, and may the Great Spirit and Mother Earth provide for you, and may the Creator look over all of us.
All right. Thank you very much, Ed. You've been listening to Education with Ed. It is Sunday, January 13th, 2019. At least we have a president that cares about the country in 2019. What?
I said I agreed with you.
Yeah.
Somebody else said something in the background. Speak up. Don't be bashful. Okay.
No, just you and me. All right. But anyways, yeah, we don't have anything majorly fancy on this show. We're trying to teach you, not entertain you. We're trying to inform you, not stroke your ego. In the end, what you do, you're liable for. We're not liable for your actions on anything, any information we give here or on the website. So do with the information as you will, but remember, you hold liability for your own actions. What was that, Ed?
And don't forget to educate yourself and your children. It's your responsibility.
Yep. And again, if somebody says, hey, there's no such thing as bloodlines, ask them why the hell the English royalty is so inbred then.
Yeah, and ask them why the Pope and all the monks and all that are inbred, because if they're not supposed to have sex, how do they become existence, folks?
We'll have none of that. Anyways, thank you guys, and we'll catch you next week. If Ed doesn't kick the bucket by that time, which I really hope he doesn't, I still got to pick his
Well, I
Monday.
hope I don't either. Thank you for the encouragement.
Well, yeah. But anyways, I know I haven't been keeping up with the counter, but I'm feeling sorry for this invalid old man here. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, just because I've just been living in and out of the hospital for the last 7 months.
exactly. Plus, I'm extremely
Yeah.
tired myself. So, all right. See you guys next week, and don't forget, just take control of your own life and stop trying to blame everybody else. And don't bother voting because one, it doesn't really matter when you vote, and two, when you vote, what does that do? That says you are a corporate slave and you have no rights. Me personally, I'm still working on the right way to uh, revoke my voting registration. Once I get that done, I've got everything done to where I'm completely out of the system. So, y'all have a good night, and we'll catch you next week.